Today we have Kayla as a guest, and the theme of our 2 hours together is about this famed French school called CNIMA, which really turned my experience around on the path that I was headed. Kayla has been telling me about CNIMA for years, and it's one of those things where, I don't know, sometimes when somebody's very excited about something, you go, okay, yeah, I can see that you're really into that. I'm sure it's awesome, but like, I'm cool, I'm doing my own thing. And then I kind of had, I don't know, maybe I was looking for something also. You know, I was looking to study. I had space in my life for that. And it coincided with Kayla working to arrange to bring Jacques Mornet and Nathalie Bouchek's over to the United States. Maybe we could start with, you could introduce yourself and maybe tell your story of accordion around your experience with CNIMA.
I started playing accordion as an adult. I spent a lot of time in France. My spouse is French. And I discovered the accordion through a French friend of mine. I was hanging out at his house one afternoon. He was like, let me play you the song I've been working on. And I had what we call in French a coup de foudre, a lightning bolt. I fell in love with this instrument. I was like, I want to learn this, and I'm going to start learning it this summer. I found an old accordion on the French equivalent of Craigslist. I found this old Honer. At that time, I didn't know anything about what it should feel like or how it should function or the mechanisms. It was horrible on air compression and all that kind of stuff, but it didn't matter because I was learning and I was loving learning. After a few months, I started searching for a place to study in France, knowing that I was going to be spending the next summer there. I found CNIMA online just by chance, and I thought, oh, this looks like fun. I'll try it. What I fell in love with from my first visit to CNIMA was the ambiance, the warmth, the soulfulness of the school. It's in this little village kind of in the middle of nowhere, France. It's in central France. The directors, Jacques Mornet and Nathalie Bouchek's, are incredible music educators. They're so passionate about what they teach and about how they teach. And their goal is to convey their passion to their students. And it starts with the attack of the first note. It's about making it beautiful. They don't care how technically proficient any given student is. If you can't play with beauty and intention, they will get you there. They will work with you diligently until you can't get there. But they will not let you fall through the cracks because they will accept nothing less. Beauty.
You must have had like accordion, something about this sound in your DNA, you know, that just like, it just resonates with you.
Maybe I did. I'm from Louisiana.
Right.
It's a completely, obviously a wildly different style of accordion, Cajun and Zydeco, but nonetheless, it's the sound. It clicked with me as soon as I heard it. And then when I started going to this school, it clicked even more deeply, just I think because of the way that they approach music education and their own soulful demeanors. Just like, I want to try to do what they're doing, and I want to hang around these people because it's so much fun. And they create this atmosphere of warmth. I was just such a neophyte in those days. I knew that what I had stumbled on in France was incredibly special. This particular instruction was something that American accordionists could use.
Yeah.
From what I understood, there had not been a sort of school of one particular pedagogy or a school of thought or a particular approach as unique and as special as this one.
You know, because I teach and I teach a lot and I love teaching, I started getting involved with the Accordionists and Teachers Guild, which is the second oldest big accordion nonprofit. People care about accordion, especially this kind of repertory music, accordion that's maybe not tied like Zydeco or polka music, but this style. Realize that in the United States we have this sort of Middle Ages period where the accordion was very unpopular, and all the schools died out, and we have a big gap in our education for one. This is a really wonderful thing that you've started to bring them over and to share. I think it's really, really, really a good thing.
This is in French, but it's subtitled in English, Accordion Technique. So it shows you, it's just a very short clip in which the technique is discussed a little bit more so that our viewers can get an idea of what we're talking about.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Anaïs Bessière. J'ai étudié pendant 3 ans au CNIMA Jacques Mornet. J'ai appris toutes les bases techniques au niveau de l'instrument. La gestion d'un son, la gestion du soufflet. Il faut vraiment penser que notre soufflet, c'est comme notre poumon en fait. C'est lui qui nous permet de respirer, de jouer. moi, je jouais tout à l'envers, donc c'est-à-dire je tapais mes notes. Mes notes, elles avaient un son creux. Avant, je jouais comme ça. C'était très scolaire, pas du tout de feeling et très linéaire, on va dire. On a travaillé toutes les variétés de toucher, le lié, le louré, le staccato, pour donner beaucoup plus de relief et de feeling en fait à notre jeu musical. J'ai aussi appris à être plus proche du clavier, ça nous permet de bien travailler donc notre technique. On a travaillé le phrasé jazz, on a travaillé aussi un petit peu la souplesse et la qualité du son.
I'm gonna plug their YouTube channel. So if you want more, and there's some great instructional videos on here too, which just scratch the surface of what it's all about. You got to go down kind of far. There's a full 30-minute video of Jacques teaching you a song. And he goes over, it's a very, very simple song, but he goes over it, here's the melody, and then here's how the basses should sound and all that sort of stuff. That's cool.
I think that's the same one where he shows how he takes a phrase at a time. He'll play the phrase on the pull and the same phrase on the push and keep repeating that until he moves to the next phrase. That's very useful.
Maybe we can watch a little bit of that, Mark.
I found that sometimes, playing it on the push was more difficult for me. So playing it in both directions helped a lot.
This is the technique that he showed us where you play your phrase opening and then you play the exact same phrase closing, and your job is not only to play it perfectly, but to get the bellows back where they started, right?
Right.
Yeah, that was a revelation for me too. I remember from the New Orleans workshop that the three of us were all at, that one thing I heard over and over again from everybody, unsolicited, was, man, I wish I started this way.
Yeah. Those pieces by Frank Angelis that you're scrolling past there, I bought those at volume 2 and number 3, and I'm working on a couple of pieces, and they're beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah.
They're wonderful books to work from. Frank Angelis is a composer, and he's known for doing these incredibly complicated competition pieces, complex, involved, detailed, that are absolutely unattainable for people like me or for most amateur adults. And he had been asked many times over the years to write pieces that were easier because his writing is so beautiful. His composition is so beautiful, always poetic somehow. He had been asked to write more pedagogical pieces that were attainable for people like me and that were good for younger students starting. He did a series of 3 books, and he has them both for chromatic bass and for standard bass. They're wonderful books. They'll be available at the New Orleans workshops. They can also be mailed from France.
Here's their website, CNIMA.com, and they do have, if you don't speak French, like me, I don't speak French, it comes up in French, but then you hit the little American flag and it translates it to English, and then they have this store. I found the video. I don't know where in the video it is, Mark, but we can at least check it out a little bit. And then he goes through. It's a really nice lesson.
Alors, comment obtenir une telle basse? D'abord, prenez ma méthode, ma non-méthode plutôt, à la page 34, 35, 36, il y a un tas d'exercices qui vous permettra de comprendre le système. Et le système n'est pas difficile à comprendre, les doigts collés et surtout éviter de taper.
This idea I'm beginning to understand more and more about keeping your fingers touching, especially the bass notes for me, and how you, like, one of the things that I'm realizing is if, like, swinging a baseball bat or a hammer or something, it's like you only have one attack that way if your fingers are off the buttons, and boom, boom, and you have the inertia of your fingers, and that's it. Whereas if you start with your fingers on the buttons, touching them, then you have this whole range of depth and velocity that you can get out of it. And that is a recent big aha moment from a Skype lesson with Jacques.
Sur les notes ou d'écraser les notes. Ok? Vraiment, il faut être très collé sur les notes. La première basse, la basse de base, se dépose avec beaucoup de souplesse et avec un mouvement corporel. Vous le voyez, ce mouvement corporel?
He says beaucoup de souplesse. Souplesse, how would you translate that word?
Souplesse is kind of flexibility.
Flexibility.
Or
suppleness?
Right part?
Suppleness.
Yeah, right, Mark?
Yeah, suppleness.
Okay.
Yeah, suppleness.
So
Yeah.
not hard. I guess I would say not hard and mechanical.
Supple and fluid.
Fluid. That's the word that would come to my lips
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
You know, I find this teaching of his to start with the pull or the push on the bellows just before the attack of the first note is not so easy.
Well, and the thing is, all of these things, I don't find any of it easy, but you have to do it over and over and over and over until it becomes a reflex. And in my case, it's taken me quite some time to turn these things into reflexes, but it happens. They insist on it. They won't let you move forward until you do that habitually.
Mm-hmm.
Open the bellows before you attack the first note.
And Kayla, earlier in our stream, you mentioned the articulations, that there's 4 articulations, and those are really, really important. The other idea, which we didn't talk about, which Mark just brought up, is like the idea that of playing on the cushion of air. And even in my lessons now, I have this ball right here to describe that it's not it's not a lever that we're playing, like, because I play piano accordion and teach mostly piano accordion, but it's not like an on-off thing. That really you need to think of the piano key or the button as a cushion, as something that's a cushion of air that can fill up with various amounts of tension. So if you pull gently, you have a little bit of tension, and you need to not just smash down your cushion of air every time. You can do that, that's a particular sound, but you don't always want to do that, and in a lot of cases, that's not what you want to do. And to make your cushion of air first by moving your bellow to make the sound that you want, and then you play your note on top of it. That was like, for me in New Orleans, like, oh, cool. Okay, well, this changes things.
That's what creates the sound. That cushion of air creates, it's the base of the sound. And if you don't have it, you don't have sound. And if you don't have sound, then why bother to play? Like, it's, so that's where everything starts and ends, with the air. And I was just reading the comments about the bellows, and I wanted to point that out. The way that CNIMA trains on bellows is to have them as a perfect fan that opens naturally with the air compression.
There is a question. This is a great question from Dr. No. Posture and positioning is something super important. And Kayla, you've told me that, like, it's something that they talk to you about over and over and over again, and it took you a little while to find the right spots for everything, especially through, I guess, the Skype lessons, right?
In the early days, I was only going maybe once a year, and that was the only in-person instruction I was getting. So positioning was definitely tricky, and one of my biggest issues, I would move my legs around too much, and then it would knock it off my thigh. But they insist that it's resting on your thighs so that you can have total balance. Your instrument is completely balanced on your body, on your thigh.
I was using a stool for a long time, and I think actually it was you, Dallas, that I think you noticed once in a lesson that the stool was a little bit high so that my thigh and my calf were not at right angles to each other, which also meant that my feet weren't flat on the floor. And Natalie really stresses that as a way to keep the feet on the floor, to stay grounded. All that's very important. I have to, continually just check in with that when I'm playing, make sure that that's all happening right.
And I saw another student who played a very small accordion with his left foot on a little block of wood to bring it up off the floor a little bit. Spend a lot of time, and it's very, very important that you do get your posture and positioning right. The feet both need to be firmly on the floor so that your body weight can be straight. I say straight down from your torso into your buttocks is the words I use in English. Although Natalie told me the word bassin, I believe, is...
Bassin, that's just your pelvic area.
Okay, she said that's like that's the word to use. Then your body weight, as you move your body forward, you can move your body weight into your legs and you're supported, and the accordion stays balanced. And it even gets a lot of help from music. And everybody on the chat knows we've spent a lot of time on that. And these explorations, the whole live streams like history is very much a result of me being, set aflame by Jacques and Natalie's ideas, and how it just fills a necessary, it's just like there's a gap in my musical experience about this sort of training and this sort of technique on the accordion, and you really can't find it in the United States. Maybe if you're living in the same city as one of these few concertizing accordionists, like Stas Vanglevsky comes to my mind. He's a wonderful bayan player who's, from that sort of Soviet era school. If you're around somebody like that, yes, but in general, nobody talks about this stuff. Nobody talks about playing on the surface, only pushing the button down. Nobody talks about playing on a cushion of air. People do talk about playing lightly and stuff, and there's some ideas, but in general, there's a real vacuum of these wonderful ideas that I think, CNIMA is our place, but they aren't the only ones doing it, right? The Russian bayanists are playing with many of the same similar techniques. The Italians, it's not the only place to learn, but Jacques and Natalie are very unique in their personality.
And they've also found a way to deconstruct it and to convey it in a way that's understandable and attainable for everyone, no matter what your level is. Part of the beauty of CNIMA is the way that Mr. Mornet has deconstructed this method. And part of that is by focusing on articulations. He's broken it down into 4 main articulations with some minor articulations mixed in. I think I tried to choose videos today that are good examples of these articulations and of how this musicality that they're famous for teaching is expressed in a professional student. Omia Marine is a great place to start. As a young woman, she trained there. Now she's a professional musician. She plays regularly all over France and Europe. She trained there in the 90s. Maxime Novus, he's been going there, I think, probably since he's 10 or 11. I think I saw him the first time when he was 12. He's, I guess, 18 or 19 now. He's a remarkably gifted player who's also spent every school vacation and summer. I don't know if there's anyone I know who works harder. And these kids practice 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day. As Jacques describes it, it's as though they're training for the Olympics. They're very devoted, and it's a beautiful thing. For a piece like that, it requires a lot of him, and he totally steps up to the plate.
Yeah.
That's Futa. He's a Japanese student who came to study with Jacques last year, and then he ended up competing and winning everything. He's ridiculously good.
He won Coupe Mondiale. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay, Musette Mama says, I'm humbled by such virtuosity of Futa. Gary Later 18 says, I'm speechless, such mature playing. I know. I agree with you, Gary Later 18. Dr. No says, sure, but do any of these students play any difficult pieces? It's a good one.
I want to encourage everyone listening to the extracts from Futa and Maxime, which are very avant-garde contemporary pieces. But there's also if you go to CNIMA'S YouTube channel, you'll see normal adults like me, and you'll see some before and after videos that are encouraging, and you'll see other students who play pieces that are more classical, and there's such a broad spectrum of what they teach there.
Folk pieces. The simplest pieces, they almost seem the most like eye-opening.
And they consider those the important ones because that's where you're really learning technique. Maybe I was thinking maybe we can watch one of those videos of Jacques Baudin.
Yeah.
We heard Maxime play this kind of avant-garde contemporary piece. Then we have Jacques Baudin. I met him, I think, in 2016 when he was just finishing up his studies there. And since then, he has gone off and embarked on his career, which has already been very successful. As Dallas was saying, they train in all genres of music. If we listen to Indifference, it's a classic French musette, but he puts his spin on it.
Wow. I'll play Joao Fred. I was just telling Kayla as we were kind of preparing for this 2 hours together that a fun thing for me has been to be here in America and have my YouTube heroes, accordionists that I find on YouTube, and I just go, oh my gosh, I love this video. Some of my favorites. And then to go over to CNIMA, and CNIMA has a huge wall. I think it's people who have come through there who have won big competitions, I think. And it's a huge wall right as you come in on the left. And it's mostly headshots and then the awards that they've received. And it's a lot. It's a lot of people on there. This guy is one of them, Joao Fred. And after a while you go, okay, I'm not surprised now that I know what you learn. And from what you learn, then how you feel about music on the accordion. So here's Joao Fred.
Portuguese, right?
Portuguese, yeah, from Portugal. Wow.
I was going to talk a little bit more about Mr. Mornet. And the first time I met him, he grew up in Avignon, and he had very fond memories of when the city of Avignon, that's my favorite picture ever,
so cool.
was liberated by the Americans, and of American soldiers coming
wow.
Big Red gum out to the children. And so every time I go there, I bring him Big Red gum. He told me that in 1981, he came to the Kansas City. There was a competition. It was one of the World Cups.
I think this was Coupe Mondiale. I thought that it was Alain Musichini came, and Peter Suave was also there. And I thought that Peter Suave maybe came in second, Alain won. And then the next year, Peter switched, or in that year between that coupe and the next one, Peter switched from piano accordion to button accordion to C system, and in 1 year made the switch to C system and then won the Coupe Mondiale, Peter Suave.
And he said, I've taught all over the world, taught all over Europe. He's taught master classes. And he said, I started my career in the United States and I would like to end my career in the United States. I don't know if y'all want to see a video of Natalie playing.
Yeah.
She's incredible. She's so inspiring.
And Jacques and Natalie are such compliments to each other.
Absolutely. Natalie's in black and white, and she's playing Meta Tango, which is one of her signature pieces. It's a Piazzolla piece.
Amazing.
That was awesome.
She's incredible to watch.
She's a wonderful person.
We love Natalie.
Being around people that have such a depth of musical both experience and feeling, and then being around students who also have a lot of depth, potential depth and living depth of music. It's such a rich environment to be in.
Jacques, he's everything. Jacques and Natalie, they're both a technique which has roots way, way, way back, but then they're also very much on the cutting edge, and their students are competing and winning the trophies. And Jacques will tell you himself that he learns from everybody,
Jacques has been teaching, I think, for 60 years or over 60 years.
It became like a phenomenon. It became a rekindling of accordion. He ignited all these super people that became really, really amazing musicians, and it was like a phenomenon.
Exactly.
There's this, especially in places that aren't the United States, Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Russia, China, there's a large culture around competitions. And it's sort of like, you have your accordion teacher and maybe an accordion school, and then you have your little regional competitions. And then if you're a budding young artist, then you compete in your locals, and then finally the nationals for your country. And then your country selects, just like the Olympics, selects a few to compete and represent your country in this international competition, of which there are a few. The two big ones, as I understand, is the Coupe Mondiale and the Trophy Mondiale. And so Jacques has been having, that's pretty much every accordion teacher would have students go there. I would if I lived in Europe or Germany or something. And so then there was a period of time where the Russian students were just kicking ass. They were just winning everything. And everybody else was not even placing and stuff. And then so Jacques says, well, I decided just to study what they're doing. And so he kind of reverse engineered it, watching them. I don't know if he doesn't describe exactly how he does it, through video or whatever, but just I studied them. I figured it out. I figured out what they're doing, how they're making beautiful music. I started teaching my students, and then we started winning.
He's a master of deconstruction. So the way he describes it is, the first year he did it, they won third place, the CNIMA student, and then the next year the second place, and then the next year, they took everything.
Right.
And then have been pretty consistently doing that since then, and that was, at least 40 years ago as well. And Natalie was a former student of his. She came to him, I think, in the late 80s, and she'd already been playing, but by this time he was already quite known as basically a master sculptor of his students, champion creator. And she came to him, and with him, I know she won Klingenthal, which I know is another big one. And I think she won a bunch of other stuff. they decided to officially open a school together.
It's really affordable to come for a week.
It starts Monday afternoon at 2 p.m. with an orientation, and then we jump right into our classes. And we have classes daily. And then on Saturday, we have the final debriefing where we get a critical breakdown of our playing. And it's really one of the best parts of the entire workshop. The school offers instruction to all ages. They train adults like me, amateur wannabes who are just passionate about this instrument. They train kids who are incredible and go on to these amazing careers. Capability of the school is to train all levels because their approach is the same no matter if you've played for a month or for 10 years, or if you were an older adult who played when you were a kid and you want to get back into it. Their approach is the same. It's all about connecting with musicality, with your own musicality, and connecting with it in a rounded, soulful way.
Tony Perina says, it is hard to imagine a body of instruction that applies to all attendees, regardless of existing skill level, but it is true! Exclamation point. I was at the last one and witnessed beginners through semi-pro make obvious improvements in the course of a week. Okay, first question from the chat. Do the teachers there all speak English?
Some of the teachers speak English. Jacques and Natalie are not fluent English speakers. Their feeling, and they feel strongly about this, is that they speak the language of music. And they feel that they're able to convey what they need to convey because it's a common language. Quite often in the group classes, there's someone else who speaks English and who will translate. For the workshops in New Orleans, I had a translator last year, but we actually didn't need her. There were at least 3 or 4 students who were Francophiles, who were fluent French speakers, and they really helped things move smoothly. I do a lot of translating when we're there. Dallas is a non-French speaker, so Dallas can perhaps speak to that better than I can.
I think your answer is complete. You know, I don't think I have anything to add to it. This is something I witnessed when I went, and I had before I knew about Jacques and Natalie, I went to another French teacher years before that. And that person has people come in and live in their house. They have a big house. Other than French, the only other language that was spoken was English by the teacher. And if you didn't know either of those languages, then you just, like, there was a Russian accordion player there who didn't speak either language, and it was just, just watch. And I think that's good. I think that that's really, really important, because the ability to just learn from watching and copying and listening to the sounds and movements that's really most of what you need. That my challenge comes from when I want to ask a question. I feel limited in that way, and that would be my major motivation to to get proficient at French in the longer term. There are other ways to do it. I can translate and present it to them that way or something.
They do speak a few words, so I mean more than a few words. Yeah. Jacques is He gets by pretty well. And
Natalie too, yeah. They do.
Do you have any thoughts on that, Mark?
If you have questions, if you have any questions, you can always ask somebody. There's usually somebody nearby, either sitting in on the class or in the class, who's a francophone that can ask a question for you. But really what you're saying about observing, listening, almost everything is learned by listening. If an approach to the staccatos and the legatos and everything, that's all learned by listening carefully. All of the phrasing is learned by listening carefully. The bellows action and the movement of the body are learned by watching and listening. So it's not an intellectual exercise, it's very visceral.
Yeah. And the intellect can get in the way from that, it can be possible to do oneself a disservice by saying, well, I don't know the word, I don't understand the words they're telling me, so therefore I can't learn. And that's not it. Magnus Carlson, France, says, yes, it works for non-English speaking. Magnus was just there, and Magnus says that they're Swedish and speak some French. Cool. Thanks, Magnus, for your perspective also. Very interesting. And he says Vladimir speaks good English. Yes, Vladimir is there now from Ukraine. He is one of the teachers at CNIMA as well. And then we have MICLA MIA says, particularly for the young French accordion players or the local students, does Maestro Mornet recommend a particular type or brand of accordion?
Not at all. They don't do recommendations like that. They're absolutely fine with piano keyboards and obviously chromatic button keyboards. he will suggest to a young student whether or not he thinks he should train for free bass, chromatic bass, as they call it.
Okay.
But they only talk about it in general terms like that. They won't recommend certain brands. And I've often said, as having been there many times and heard different accordions, they'll take, I mean, I care about how an accordion sounds, and the more I've learned from this school, the more I've become a better listener. But they will take any accordion and basically bend it to their will. Like they'll make it sound like how they want to make it sound.
But they are equally masters at getting people of all levels to make amazing, huge leaps in humanity, if I may, in their music. Like, you know, not to disparage any of the students, but just like that's the magic of them.
There's a humanity behind this that it makes me weep every time I go to one of these end of workshop recitals or those Saturday debriefing days when they give you the critical analysis of your work and they present you with a before and after video. They take videos of you on the first day of the workshop, and then on the last day we take an after video of what you've been working on. And when you see the development of these students, and again, it can be, you know, a hardened adult or a young kid, but it's every time I cry because it's so beautiful to see the shifts that people make in their playing. And I think it kind of leaves me speechless.
There's a request in the chat from NYC LA MIA says, please talk a bit of how the week in New Orleans goes.
It's based exactly on how the workshop in France works. We start on Monday afternoon with an orientation and we do the before clips. The students are encouraged to bring one or two pieces of music that you know very, very well, that you have under your fingers. It's not the time to learn a new piece of music because what they want to teach you is actually how to play what you know. And if you are in the process of learning something, then you're going to spend all your time wrapping your fingers around the piece rather than ingesting their technique and their method. Bring a couple of pieces in case, you know, one of them doesn't work. Bringing a couple of pieces that you know very, very well. You'll be recorded the first day. It sounds intimidating. It's horrible. I have terrible stage fright.
5 minutes.
But you know what? It is so useful. It's the most useful tool that they offer are these before and after videos. And so in the first day, we start one group class and then everyone has a short private class. The private classes are between 20 to 30 minutes. The group classes are 1 hour long. And then the rest of the workshop daily, there are 2 group classes, and then you have 2 private classes. And you're encouraged to observe the other students' private classes. So quite often you come in on the tail end of their class, or 3 or 4 or 5 people. Last year in New Orleans, there was a lot of observing going on. Many of us find that a very helpful way to learn. We all have lunch together, which is kind of how they do it in France, and it also helps create this nice atmosphere of beautiful camaraderie. The lunches that we have in New Orleans are New Orleans style food, but there's gluten-free and vegan options. It's fantastic, and
everybody eats together, and we hang out, and there's camaraderie.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then on Friday is the last day of the workshop, and there's a final group class, private classes that morning, and then that afternoon everyone is filmed for their after videos. Friday night is the recital, where it's not mandatory to play in it, but it's strongly, strongly encouraged. And again, this is how CNIMA, this is their approach to getting you over your stage fright. Everybody gets nervous, as Mark said. I've been to the 14, 15 workshops, and I only stopped choking in the last year, I think. Very useful. And then on the Saturday morning, the last morning of the workshop, there's no instruction, but everybody comes together and we watch the before and after videos, and we listen to Natalie and Jacques give the detailed critical analysis of what we've done with our playing throughout the week, where we started, where we've ended, what we need to concentrate on moving forward. And he considers that the most important lesson of the week, and he's right. I think Dallas and Mark would agree.
Yes, I agree.
Do we have your before and after videos handy, Dallas?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So this is me just showing up with my hair braided after having been in the car and then playing.
So different on the last day. You're so much more emotionally involved with your music there.
Yeah. And what I notice is I'm thinking about like every note, you know, not just kind of, I don't know, I'm really like caring about every single note, you know.
They want you to be able to savor the music for as much as possible.
Yeah.
You're not just kind of mindlessly playing. There's intention behind what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like sculpting a piece.
It makes the music much more powerful emotionally.
I'll just say how we met Mark last summer in New Orleans. Mark is from Arkansas. He's a farmer and also a French speaker and an amazing accordionist who thrived at the workshop and then has already gone to France back in December and you studied in France with those guys, right?
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit
right
about your
Christmas.
experience there?
Oh, it was so sweet. It was awesome to be in that little town at the top of the hill in that nice, 3-story building with all those people that were so fascinated with accordion. Everybody was getting so much individual time. I'm always fascinated by how Jacques and Natalie take so much personal time with everyone. It's super nice. I mean, a lot of times in the music community, there's a lot of ego, you know, and especially adults can feel very intimidated by their performance, especially if they haven't been playing a long time. And Jacques and Natalie are so supportive. They just pay just such close attention to what you do on your instrument and are really always looking for ways to help you. And it feels like a big family. I made some really good friends there. And Jacques and Natalie have really created that family feeling, you know, with the dining room and just hanging out with people after classes, and super cool. It was so much fun. And of course it reinforced all of the lessons that I had started learning in New Orleans about Bellows control and expression and all those things. So it's always good to hear that stuff, you know, several times, if not every day. It was awesome. I loved it. What's different about being at this school at CNIMA was I was able to be around all the young people who had been coming throughout their life there. Every time they had a break, some kind of school break, they'd go there for a workshop, and just to see those kids hanging out and playing with each other, it was super nice. You know, adults are so touchy about their performance level and how other people are perceiving them. And the kids that have grown up in it, they were fun to just watch them hang out with each other and play for each other. It was so playful. And, you know, I saw some amazing performances at the final concert. There were kids that were 17, 18 years old that perform internationally in contests. And I was just blown away by the level of musical expression and technical ability and the amount of affection that Jacques and Natalie have for them, you know, and the support their parents are giving them. All that was very touching. Being at CNIMA was being, you know, in the nest.
Those kids are so inspiring. It's such a mixture of adults, and they even have some workshops that are geared towards adults only. And I find the vibe quite similar at those workshops too. There's not the youth there, but there's the warmth and the sense of community and the sense of belonging and the sense of being able to share this kind of obsession that we all have with other people who have it equally. I find that, super fun, because people outside of the accordion community don't necessarily understand how it can be this obsessive instrument.
How crazy we are.
Yeah.
I heard the guy next to me, the guy who was in the room next to me, had been at CNIMA for about a year. He was retired. I think he was like an electrical engineer or something. He's probably in his mid-50s. And he had been there for the entire year. He had stayed there for the whole year.
Was it
Alain? I heard
Alain?
him. Alain, wait.
Yeah, cool. Yes.
So I just heard him playing this piece over and over and over. I mean, he was just practicing all the time. It was so inspiring to hear him practicing. And then, of course, as soon as I got home, I had to start working on that piece. I was just obsessed by it.
Which piece was it?
It's called Nani by Joe Colombo.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah. Another cool thing, I think very instructive for me, is watching how everyone to a person got nervous at their concert, no matter what their level of performance. I think that's always fascinating to see that. That's very instructive for all of us. I really took it to heart when Natalie and Jacques told us that one of the best cures for stage fright is to play in public as often as possible. And I ended up doing that a lot this summer, taking my accordion to the farmer's market and giving some concerts with my pianist friend. And every single time I learned something about, what that is to perform, the things that can happen that are totally unexpected, like when your playing partner totally spaces out the repeats and forgets whole sections. It's like after, these are people who conduct orchestras, but they still have the same type of things that happen. So, and then, some older man who was playing the bandoneon at the final concert, he just messed up in the middle. He says, "Nailed it," really loud, right in the middle of the concert. That's pretty funny. So, it's like this mixture of this informal family getting together, but then this very serious musical attitude. They're going to bust you for your bad habits. There's no doubt about it.
They won't let you get away with anything.
No, what a drag, but what a benefit. Aren't you going to the school soon?
Yeah, I'm going to fly on Saturday.
To see so many cool accordions.
Like going over late summer, I had never been in the presence of bayans played by really amazing players. And like Vladimir was one of those players. And that's a whole nother sound that we don't really get to hear very much in the United States at all. The sound of a bayan played by a major, player is, wow, that's something special.
Something great for me, because I haven't been playing all that long, is that they made me realize that no matter what level I was playing at, or anyone's playing at, that we can play with a level of musical sensitivity that's moving both to us and to our audience. And so, we tend to get caught up in technique, and technique often is just a reflection of how long someone's been playing. And a lot of us, we start playing as an adult. So I started when I was 65, so I'm never going to have the level of technique as somebody who started playing when they're 8 years old or 13 years old. However, you can bring all of your musical sensitivity to pieces that are much less technically difficult to play, and apply all of their techniques to have an emotional content in the music that's very moving for you and for your audience. So that's a great message to get from them.
I completely, yeah. I've been playing an accordion for longer than you have, Mark, but I'm similarly moved by it. And as an educator as well, similarly moved to learn from how they do it. Like, oh, wow, of course. Like, okay, you teach them a note. First, put your finger, press here. That makes sound on the accordion. Next step, make it beautiful. Not hard to do, really. No harder than teaching them a second note. Just, okay, do that. Now, add your soul to it. What can you make that one note do? Make it go like this. Make it go do. Wow. Make it go, totally. As an educator, just my mind totally blown open by that. Mark, any parting thoughts?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. It's a wonderful musical experience. You're going to learn something that was completely unexpected.
At the very least, I've learned how to be a deep listener and more, but I love that I listen well now. The CNIMA USA Gmail account, where you can direct any questions you have to me. I'll be happy to answer them. CNIMAUSA@gmail.com.
And I will end by thanking Kayla so much, thanking Mark so much. What a wonderful thing. This has been a tremendous 2 hours. Thank you guys so much. It's great to see you both.